happening at this point in time, but maybe about 15 minutes ago, there was a minor scuffle where we saw some federal agents and some of the folks out there breaking out into some sort of argument. There was some pepper spray that was being used on some of the folks out there, but as of right now, it doesn't look like there are any violent encounters or any arguments breaking out. But we have been monitoring this throughout the morning. People have been showing up for the past couple of hours or so. Everything remaining relatively peaceful, but of course, this is the third day that we're seeing the tensions escalate with protests or confrontations. We've seen this in a number of different areas across LA County and Paramount, as well as Compton, downtown Los Angeles. You can see the California National Guard there on the ground. They have batons ready. They also have shields ready as they protect the federal building. And we're being told this is where people who have been detained are being kept. So we're watching this live, where we're seeing how this is all developing on this third day. We're getting pictures both on the ground as well as up in the air. You can see protesters out there holding signs, chanting. We have media who are mixed in with the crowd, making sure that you get a good perspective of what's happening there on the ground. But we are watching this, seeing how this all plays out. This could be a matter of minutes or hours before this crowd disperses, and we will see if this remains peaceful for the rest of the afternoon here on this Sunday. Right now, it also looks like traffic is being affected there on the streets, obviously, with all the people blocking some of the roadways there. But this is all coming after President Trump has deployed 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles. And Governor Newsom, Mayor Karen Bass, they've both objected to this, saying that this will only escalate tensions with these ICE raids happening in our area. So on the right side of your screen, you're taking a look at video from a little bit earlier this afternoon. This is the confrontation that I was mentioning with some folks and federal agents clashing a bit. There was pepper spray that was being used, some non-lethal weapons as well, to kind of disperse the crowd. That all died down within a matter of minutes. So right now we're not seeing any of that happening. Again, the right side of your screen, that is not our live picture. That happened within the last half hour or so, but you can see flashbangs, pepper spray, non-lethal weapons to disperse that crowd. The left side of your screen is what we're seeing at this point in time. Right now, it looks like the perimeter is holding and no one is getting violent on either side of this issue. But we are still seeing some remnants on the ground there from some confrontations over the last few days. Again, this is the third day that we're seeing protesters out here with signs and protesting outside the federal building here. We're watching to see if anything else develops on this afternoon. But the right side of your screen, you can see it got a little heated as they used smoke bombs there. Some media on the ground. I'd say there are about 300 people or so that have come out to protest in front of the building. And again, so far, no violent encounters, no major violent encounters so far this afternoon, just a few scuffles. No arrests made so far, according to our reports. I mean, Saturday night's protest outside the federal building, there were 11 arrests made, and those were primarily for failure to disperse once the order was given for an unlawful demonstration. Right now, we are also patching in Bruce Thomas. He's one of our experts here to weigh in. Bruce, what do you make of what you're seeing here at this scene in front of the federal building in downtown Los Angeles?
Well, you know, if we can just back up for a few, and I don't know if it's been covered, but the National Guard typically is called out by the lead law enforcement agency for the county of Los Angeles. That would be the county sheriff's department. Sheriff Luna would make the request to the governor. The governor would approve the request and then dispatch the National Guard. And what the president has done, he's kind of circumvented, I believe it's Title 10, which is the chain of command. So there are some issues with that. The other thing, too, I know the Secretary of Defense, he wants to bring in the Marine Corps. Well, you can't have American troops on American soil in the Insurrection Act. So I'm just kind of bringing up our viewers to see what's going on and what the chain has kind of been broken a little bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your input and insight on all of this, because it really paints the picture for how different this situation is in terms of deployment with the National Guard, possibly the Marines, according to the Secretary of Homeland Security. So it's good to see that. But what do you make of this scene right now? I mean, earlier we saw a bit of a scuffle, some confrontation with folks, but now it's calmed down within the past few minutes.
Yeah, you know, with the National Guard, if they are on federal property, and having done a lot of protests in West LA, you have to be invited on the property under a mutual aid agreement. You just cannot just station yourself on federal property. They have the Federal Protective Police, Homeland Security, and I'm assuming ICE also to do that. But, you know, the other thing, too, is everybody has a First Amendment right to protest. When you start throwing stuff and vandalizing, then it gets a little out of control, and then the First Amendment right kind of takes a back seat to how dangerous the situation could be.
Hey, Bruce, this is Jory Rand joining the broadcast now. Thank you for your continued coverage here. I wonder if we can just take a look at this wide shot as we look at the Roybal Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles. This is now day 3 of unrest in downtown LA. In response to ICE raids and Department of Homeland Security movements, we saw problems in Paramount, we saw problems in Compton, and again last night in downtown Los Angeles. Things have been tense. There are crowds gathering. We know there's another demonstration set for 2 o'clock today at LA City Hall, not too far from this location. And of course, things different now because the National Guard has been deployed here, federalized by President Trump. It is something that Governor Newsom did not disagree with when he revealed that Trump and his administration were taking over 2,000 soldiers from the National Guard. He said this was the wrong mission. This is the wrong move. It's just going to escalate tensions. And we also heard from LA Mayor Karen Bass, who said she was willing to work with the Trump administration or anybody, but that this was unnecessary in this situation. So it is definitely an odd move for this to happen without the governor's approval and cooperation. And are you seeing anything, Bruce, as we bring you back in here, anything that seems out of the ordinary other than the background that what you've been talking about, the manner in which these troops have been deployed here?
Well, you know, if you're going to deploy the National Guard, typically they're going to do what is known as property protection and structure protection. They're a visible presence. Now, as far as handling traffic, crowd control, vandalism, crime, that's what LAPD is going to deal with on a tactical alert basis because they're in the city of LA. If it gets to a point where they can't handle what's going on, then their mutual aid, they will request the LA County Sheriff's Department. So I'm not sure what the mission of the National Guard is.
Right. We saw the LAPD come in last night and kind of handle the situation. Can I ask you, so these people have taken over or are just standing in the street in downtown Los Angeles. Are these people breaking a law right now by being here if they're not being told to disperse or if they're being told to disperse? What's the line here? Whether these folks we see in the roadway are breaking a law?
Yeah, I mean, are they breaking the law? Yeah. It's a pedestrian hazard in the roadway. It's a citation. So, and typically we have allowed with protesters, we've actually met with them and said, okay, what do you want to do? I want to take over the intersection. All right, great. We're going to facilitate that for you to get your point across to make sure it's all safe. So, in essence, are they breaking the law, the spirit of the law, the letter of the law? Yes. But in reality, are you going to go in and clear them out? Not yet.
Right. As someone with such a deep background in law enforcement, I've been curious these last 48, 72 hours, that point in which the call goes to clear out a section. So if this situation were to change and the National Guard or officers wanted to move in and say clear this roadway, what is something from a law enforcement perspective? Because from the outside, that's the moment where things kind of turn very dangerous, where the crowd begins to scatter. You have a large number of people gathered here. And if the order goes out to break up this crowd, it's going to cause a panic and it's going to cause some problems. So where is the line that the officers draw here on where they want to maintain kind of a peaceful situation, even if, as you said, by the letter of the law, these folks are breaking the law, but they don't want to cause a panic and don't want to send people running in a large crowd, especially with traffic still going by, in what could turn into an incredibly dangerous situation?
Yeah, it's a multi-layered event. First thing you have to do is secure the area from vehicular traffic. Cars driving in and out is a problem for everybody. Once that's done, you set up the areas you want to close off, and you have to give everybody an escape route. This is the way we want you to go. So, at that point, does it become a problem? Is it a nuisance for everybody? Is there vandalism being committed? Is there robberies and thefts going on in local merchants? And then you say, you know what, okay, enough's enough. We gave you your First Amendment right to do what you want, and now we're done.
Yeah, we can see some graffiti on the federal building there. We see, I believe these are both live pictures, one from Air 7 and the other one from the ground. And we do obviously apologize for any profanity that we're seeing on a lot of these signs. Right now we are streaming online. And so that is just kind of comes with the territory when we're giving you the true picture of what's happening here on the ground. But at this point, things seem to have calmed down from where they were. From what we could tell, it seemed like someone from the back of this crowd may have thrown a projectile, and then they fire tear gas, and that winds up affecting those in the front of the crowd who may not have had anything to do with anything being thrown. So I don't know what order has been given out here. How much, Bruce, in a situation like this, how much restraint is advised for these Guards members and the police in a situation where you do have something thrown? You could have one agitator blow up the whole thing and kind of ruin what had been a peaceful demonstration.
Correct. And what I've been kind of is the use of the less lethal weaponry. It seems like a very willy-nilly spirit by the feds to just fire paintball rounds at them, fire rubber bullets at people. You have to have some sort of threat to do that. I mean, yeah, are there agitators in the crowd? Actually, there are, and it's a shame for them to ruin something which is a First Amendment right.
Do you have a lot of experience with the National Guard? What kind of soldiers are we talking about here? I'm sure it ranges, it varies pretty greatly in age, but how about a lack of experience? Is that something that could be a concern with some of these soldiers who are out there as compared to some LAPD officers who we've seen handle the situation last night?
Yeah, most of the National Guard, like LAPD and LASO, they are required to go through multiple hours of riot control training. That means, how to move a crowd, how to an arrest circle, to deal with an agitator. So the experience is there. How long they've been in the Guard, that's another question. But they do receive many hours of training throughout the year in civil unrest, because that is the National Guard's primary duty.
Yeah, tension levels must be pretty high, even when things are calm like this. You see every once in a while a demonstrator will approach the line, just kind of provoking and and doing whatever they can to get a rise out of that line of soldiers and officers in tactical gear. This seems like a tough spot for anyone to be in. You know, it's not an enviable situation to be in no matter what side you're on, no matter who you're advocating for, to face a crowd like this. And when you're advocating for peace and you just want things to calm down, it's a tough spot to be in as a human.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, you've got people like that, like you just mentioned, who kind of poke the bear. They're trying to get a reaction. And once that reaction goes, sometimes you can control it, sometimes you can't. And that's why in any skirmish line, you have what's called linebackers. And their job is to keep the integrity of the line, make sure no one gets out of control. And if somebody, an officer, National Guard, whatever, gets a little heated, their responsibility, pull them out of the line and replace them. You know, basically, go have a timeout.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we hope that we hope we don't have to see any of that put into play here and things remain calm. Bruce Thomas, thanks so much. I think we'll wind up checking in with you throughout the afternoon, but thank you for your help in assisting us in our coverage of what's going on in downtown. Okay. Are we going to wrap this up? Okay. We want to thank you for joining us for this streaming coverage of the unrest that continues in downtown Los Angeles. Again, we are expecting another rally to be held at 2 o'clock at City Hall. We will see if that converges with this demonstration outside the Roybal Federal Detention Center, which is just a couple blocks away. And it has been the site of unrest for the last 3 days now. Friday night it began. It was all day tomorrow in Paramount, in Compton, and again back here at Roybal. And we're seeing it here again today. We are live on the air at 3:30 this afternoon for Eyewitness News. But if we have to break in, if anything else happens, we will bring it to you live on our stream, abc7.com, ABC7 Los Angeles app, and on social media as well. We want to thank you for joining us. And remember, you can get your news anytime, 24 hours a day on our website, our app, or social media.